Welcome. So today, we'll get started in just a moment. So welcome to yoga, and today we're going to start on the floor. For anyone who doesn't know, my name is Elisa with XY Zen Wellness, and I tend to teach an all levels type of class. I really encourage everyone, no matter maybe what your level of practice is, to listen to your body. So even if you have a practice and, maybe, or you're athletic and you're used to, using a lot of energy, just listening to your body and how you feel today. And it's specifically right in the moment that we're in. And I often also recommend using different props. They're not cheating. They're, just ways of maybe helping us to get deeper into poses, or actually sometimes we can get more out of a pose by using our props. So today I'm going to get started seated on a block. You might want to sit on a sofa cushion if you have one, if you don't have a block, or you can roll up a blanket or even roll up your yoga mat. So we're going to start in a comfortable seat, and just so you have an idea of why we actually even sit on a block. So if you notice, if when you sit on the ground that your knees are higher than your hips, that's one reason to want to sit on something and get a little elevated. And it also helps protect the natural curve in our lumbar spine. So our lumbar spine has a little bit of a curve, and some of us may notice that when we sit in a chair, or if we are doing, whether we're at our desk or maybe watching TV, that we slump back. So if you notice when you're sitting on the floor that you've got that little bit of a slump, then sitting up on something a little bit higher can help us keep that natural curve and actually protect us from getting some compression there that causes that lower back pain, and it can actually cause some degeneration in our vertebrae. So protecting the lower back is super crucial. And so you might want to sit on a little something just to have that lift, and then maybe shifting and moving any excess skin away from our sitting bones, so we can allow our sitting bones to be in contact with either the ground if we're directly on the floor, or with whatever support we're on. So once we come to that comfortable seat, maybe allowing our eyes to soften or close. And if you're not comfortable closing your eyes, you can just let your eyes rest down towards the earth, starting to turn our awareness inward. Hands can be face up, or they can be face down. So palm up is a gesture of receiving, or if you're feeling like you need to maybe slow down your energy or ground your energy, letting the hands be towards the floor. So we're going to first start to bring our awareness to our bodies pressing and touching the earth. Feeling a sense of being held and supported. And with this sense of support, allowing ourselves to feel a sense of being safe. So knowing that our yoga mats are a safe space. Noticing any other bodily sensations that might be coming up. And then maybe if there's any background noise, just muting ourselves, so that way we can really allow ourselves to find a sense of quiet and ease within the body and the mind. Bringing our attention to the breath now. And in this seated position, as we inhale, maybe allowing ourselves to feel just a little bit taller as we inhale and expand on the in-breath, expanding through the belly, and then the ribs, and then the chest. And then exhaling, releasing and letting go. Inhaling, creating space. And then exhaling fully and completely. allowing one breath to follow another. We might even visualize waves coming to the shore. And then as we continue to breathe in, as we continue to breathe in, maybe saying to ourselves on the in-breath, I breathe in. And then on the out-breath, I breathe out. Using that as a simple mantra. I breathe in, I breathe out. And using those words as a way to keep the mind connected to the breath. So even if the mind starts to get a little distracted and maybe it wanders off, just coming back to the simple words, I breathe in, I breathe out. Allowing that in-breath to flow in and out through the nose, creating a sense of relaxation for the nervous system. Allowing just a couple more breaths right here with the eyes still closed. Again, feeling ourselves connected to the earth, connected to the ground, connected to nature. And then whenever you're ready, with the eyes still soft or closed, we'll inhale, sitting up a little bit taller, and as we exhale, bowing the chin towards the chest. Eyes can stay closed, or you might choose to open them, whatever feels more comfortable, as we start to create some movement for the head and neck. And as we do that, really honoring any sensations in the neck. So if we need to alter any of this, we can do so. We'll inhale, lifting our chin parallel to the floor, maybe looking up. And then exhale, chin towards the chest. So almost as if we're nodding our heads yes. Inhaling to slowly lift. And exhaling to lower. The next time we lift our chin parallel to the floor, we can continue with that up and down motion, or we can start to turn the head to one side on the exhale. And then inhaling back to center, exhaling over to the other side. Inhaling forward, and then exhaling, turning. So as we turn the head from one side to the other, maybe being aware if we have a greater range of motion on one side or the other, or maybe a greater sense of ease. And we're not trying to force or strain anything here. So if anything feels uncomfortable, finding your comfortable range of motion. So you might stay here with a side-to-side motion, or the next time we come back to the front, you can bow the chin back towards the chest and make little half circles. And as we change positions, noticing if one feels better than another for you. And just one more time in each direction. Bringing the head back to center. We're going to do a stretch for the neck that is sometimes attributed to what we call tech neck. So if you think about using your cell phone or your devices, and you maybe have a tendency to just keep your head down, which is very heavy on the back of the neck, we're going to start in a neutral position. And one thing to think about as we go through our practice is sometimes it can be very natural to jut the head out, jut the chin out. So making sure the chin is in towards the chest. And we're going to First, take the ear over to the shoulder, so left ear to left shoulder. And then maybe taking that left arm up and overhead. So we might feel a nice stretch on the back and the right side of the neck. And just applying a little bit of pressure, so that hand isn't pulling or tugging, it's just applying a little bit of weight. If that's too much, you can remove the hand. We'll inhale, and then we'll slowly lift the head back to center. We can try that on the other side. So this time, right ear to right shoulder. Maybe taking that right hand overhead. Just breathing into sensations. Remembering if we start to notice we're holding the breath, maybe we're trying a little too hard, we can ease our way out of it. So we'll inhale, lifting, and now we're going to change it up just a tiny bit. So now our chin starts at center, and we're going to turn halfway. So not all the way over to the left shoulder, but in between, kind of towards the left knee. And from here, we're just going to drop the chin towards the chest and do that same option of maybe bringing the hand to the back of the head. So a little different sensation, getting into different parts of the upper back, the upper neck, the back of the neck. And you might even experiment with pressing the back of the head into the hand this time. So now to come out of this, we'll inhale, we'll release the hand, keeping the head where it is, and we're just going to use the fingertips to lift the cheek. So rather than using the muscles of the neck, using the hand. So now we'll try the other side. So chin towards the right knee, bowing the chin towards the chest, and then maybe adding that hand, the right hand to the back of the head, pressing the back of the head into the hand if you want a little added sensation, but if not, leaving that out. Staying here for just a breath or two. And very slowly releasing the hand, keeping the head where it is. We use the fingertips to lift the cheek back to center. So we've moved our necks in a few different ways here, and we've held those stretches. So any bit of movement that you'd like before we move on. And then coming back to center. We'll lift off of our support if we're on one. So if you're on a block or a cushion, setting it off to the side. And then bending the knees, we'll bring our hands behind the body. We're just going to do some windshield wipers. Feet are pretty wide here. We'll drop the knees to one side, and then back to center, and over to the other side. So especially if we've been sitting in one position for a little while, it might feel good to create some rotation for the hips. We'll do one more time to each direction. And then extending the legs long, maybe giving them a shake. I might turn the feet in and out. So if we're turning the feet, it's really more than just the feet and the ankles moving, thinking about that movement starting up at the hips. And then coming onto our backs. So we'll turn to one side, bending the knees, holding onto one leg as a handle, using that leg to come onto our backs, hugging the knees in towards the chest. So maybe rocking them back and forth or creating some circles with the hips. And if we're circling, we'll go both directions. And then bringing the feet down to the ground. We'll keep our knees about hip distance apart, and the feet are as well. And we'll walk those feet in towards our glutes. We're setting up for bridge pose. Arms are next to the body, and as we inhale, we're going to press the feet into the earth, lifting through the hips, creating a straight line from knees to shoulders, and then exhaling, lowering all the way back down. Inhaling to lift, and exhaling to lower. We're creating a connection between the breath and the body, using every inhale as an opportunity to lift and to open. And then the exhale will lower back down. Inhaling up and exhaling down. Pausing anytime you'd like to take a break. We'll do just one more time like that. And then exhaling, coming all the way down. We'll rock those knees in towards the chest once again. And we're going to take an opportunity to focus on our abs a little bit. So throughout our practice, we'll pay a lot of attention to the core, but right now we're going to have a little focused attention just to the abs. So we're going to start with a bicycle maneuver. We'll bring fingertips behind the ears, let our gaze come up towards the ceiling. We'll inhale, and then as we exhale, we're going to bring the right elbow to left knee. So while we're here, that left foot is flexed, and the right foot is pushing into the earth. We'll inhale lower, and then we'll switch. Left knee to right, or left elbow to right knee, and that left foot is pushing down. So the big key here is really to think about that foot that's on the earth pressing into the earth. That's going to help us get that added lift, create a little bit more intensity, a little bit more strength here. And we're going to use the breath. So really focusing on the exhale when we lift and the inhale to come back down. And then as we continue, you might say just as we are, with one foot on the earth, or if you'd like, you can extend that leg. So maybe extending it out to whatever height feels good. You start to notice the low back lifting away from the earth. You can come back to where we started, or maybe lift that leg a little bit higher. Lifting it higher to the sky. We'll do just one more time in each direction. And then coming back to knees to chest. So from here, we're going to bring our focus now more to the obliques, or our side abdominals. Bring our arms out to a T shape. Feet are maybe about in a tabletop position, so thinking about as if we were sitting in a chair actually. So if we're sitting in a chair and our knees are 90 degrees, arms are out to the side, and we're going to hug those inner thighs towards each other. Feet are flexed. We'll inhale here, and as we exhale, letting the knees go over to one side, but only as far as they can go, leaving that opposite shoulder still on the earth. And that end point is where we're really challenging the side obliques. We'll inhale, coming back to center, exhaling over to the other side. And remembering, when that left shoulder wants to start to lift, that's where we're going to stop. Coming back to center, and we'll go from side to side at whatever rate feels good to you. So quickly or slowly. And oftentimes when we challenge ourselves to move slowly, that's where we really have to find a new level of strength. So rather than using momentum, going from side to side. You might even feel those obliques, your side abdominals at that stopping point. You kind of have to put on the brakes to keep the knees from going all the way over. Do just one more time to each side. Like that, you can pause or take a break anytime you need to. We're coming back to center, we'll set those feet on the ground, and we'll take our feet as wide as our mat, adding in those windshield wipers once again. So we did those seated, but now we're lying on our back, so they might feel a little different. You can even bring knees back to chest if that feels good, or if that's what the body needs right now. And coming back to center, we're going to roll to one side, using our hands to help us lift. We'll come into tabletop pose. So first placing hands directly underneath shoulders, maybe making fist for wrist. Knees are underneath the hips. And we're going to go through cat and cow a few times. So first inhaling, letting the tailbone lift, belly's dropping towards the floor, and we'll extend the heart forward. Exhaling, dropping the tailbone, rounding through the spine, bringing chin towards the chest, and letting our gaze come back towards the belly button. Inhaling, dropping that belly. Exhaling, drawing the navel in towards the spine. As we inhale for cow, the shoulders drop in towards the spine. And then as we exhale for cat, the shoulders draw away, pushing that floor away from us. So staying here with cat and cow, or if you'd like, adding in some free movement, whatever the spine or the shoulders might need, maybe the hips. You could do some hip circles. Maybe place the hands further forward or a little bit wider. You can do what I call wagging the tail, so you can inhale at center and then exhale looking towards the heel. So looking over the left shoulder towards the left heel, coming back to center on the in-breath and exhaling to look to the other side. So that might feel good to the side body or the lower back. And again, just playing around here, seeing what feels good to your body in this moment. This is a great combination to do if you've been sitting a lot, or if you're experiencing any issues with maybe back pain or tight hips. So we'll stay here for just 1 or 2 more rounds of breath. And then coming into a child's pose. So we'll bring big toes together. Knees can be towards the outer edges of the mat, or they can be more in alignment with the hips as we sink our hips back and down towards the earth. Observing any sensations into the lower back and around the sacrum, around the base of the spine. Maybe feeling sensations in the ankles or the shoulders. So in this pose, which is supposed to be a pose of rest, we might feel all different kinds of things. So noticing what's happening for you here in this first child's pose, making any adjustments so you can be comfortable. And for some of us, that might mean coming back into a tabletop pose. If it doesn't feel good, resting back. From here, we'll extend the arms forward. And if knees are wide, we'll bring them back into alignment with the hips, getting ready to lift into our first downward facing dog of the practice. So we'll tuck our toes under. Hands are spreading wide, and we'll reach them all the way towards the top of the mat. And lifting hips towards the sky, we'll come into that down dog. Starting first with our knees bent to allow the spine to stay long. And then if it feels good, we can walk our dog, starting to light up the bottoms of the feet. So you might feel some tightness there, or maybe the toes or the ankles are talking to you, maybe your calves or your hamstrings. So we can say good morning to the body, and it's starting to wake up a little bit here. And lifting both heels on an in-breath, and then as we exhale, we'll bring the heels closer to the earth, extending the chest back towards the legs. Now, heels might not make it all the way down to the ground, and that's okay. On our next out breath, we'll bring knees to the ground, uncurl our toes, and shift our hips back into child's pose. We're going to start moving through our options for vinyasa. So we're going to inhale forward, coming either to tabletop or into kneeling plank, pressing the floor away from us. Lifting through that belly for a kneeling plank, and then exhaling, we'll shift back. So remembering this combination can be our vinyasa. And if you have another vinyasa in your practice that you'd like to come to, you can be there. Or we can start out and layer on. Always letting the breath be our guide here. On our next one, we have the option of adding in our chaturanga push-up, exhaling maybe half of the way, or if you'd like, lowering it all the way. And adding that maybe one round or choosing to leave it out the next. When we do that push-up, we might really notice our tricep muscles, the backs of the upper arms. We're going to hug those arms in towards the ribs. And exhaling back. We'll do just one more. Coming back into a child's pose for 1 or 2 breaths as we lengthen the spine. We'll tuck toes under, lifting hips to the sky, coming to downward facing dog, engaging through that core. We'll inhale, looking forward. And then as we exhale, walking, taking as many steps as we'd like, coming into forward fold, keeping knees soft. We can sway here like a rag doll. Letting fingertips trace the ground. You might hold onto opposite elbows, framing the head with the arms. So either adding in that movement or staying still. And if we are swaying from side to side, we'll let that movement slow down. Bringing hands back towards the ground, deepening the bend in our knees as we inhale, taking a reverse swan dive. Exhaling, hands come to the heart. Drawing shoulders down away from the ears. Letting our gaze soften towards the earth. Find yourselves in mountain pose. From here, we're going to start to flow through chair pose. So I'm going to turn to face you. You can stay where you are. Feet are still hip distance apart in that mountain pose. And we'll inhale, arms come up, and then exhaling, sitting our hips back. Inhaling and exhaling. So arms can be whatever feels good to you. Maybe choosing to keep hands at prayer or on the thighs. Or we could move a little more freely with the arms. As we're creating strength here in the hips and the glutes. And also in our thighs. So feeling strong legs as we sit our hips back. Maybe letting the toes lift away from the earth. Might choose to challenge ourselves, staying here for an extra moment or two. So we'll do one more. And then coming back into our mountain pose. We're actually going to bring our feet a little closer together because we're going to add in a twist with our chair pose. So typically I like to have, or I recommend having feet hip distance apart. That makes us more stable, but it's going to protect us, our knees, if we have our feet closer together here. So we're going to inhale and then exhale, sitting into our chair. Hands can come to the thighs. So sitting into that chair, knees are in line with each other. And we'll inhale, lengthening the spine, and exhaling, we'll twist over to the right side. So left hand can come to the right thigh, right hand can come to the lower back. Turning the head in either direction. Hands could be at prayer as well, that's another option. And then we'll inhale, coming back up. Exhaling, hands, arms come down alongside the body. We'll do that on the other side. Inhaling up, and then as we exhale, taking that twist over to the left. So with knees together, that keeps our knees in alignment. If we do that with our feet a little wider apart, sometimes one knee goes further in front of the other. Inhaling, coming back to front. And you can either come back to those twists, or we can come back to our forward facing chair. We'll do just a couple more, so if you are still twisting, have the opportunity of balancing out both sides of the body. Make this next one the last one. And then coming back into our mountain pose, we'll find ourselves at the top of our mat. Feet are hip distance apart. Inhaling, sweep arms up and overhead. Exhaling, taking a swan dive, keeping knees bent and hinging at the hips, coming into our forward fold. We'll shake out our head and neck. Shaking our heads no, saying no to any old beliefs that might be holding us back. And then nodding our heads yes, saying yes, I am enough. And here we'll take a half lift monkey pose, bringing hands to shins or to our blocks, extending through the spine, drawing shoulders away from the ears and keeping our gaze down towards the ground. As we exhale, we'll bring hands to the floor and we'll step that right foot back, coming into a lunge, maybe lowering that knee down to the ground and uncurling those toes. Hands could be on the floor or on our blocks. And either staying here with hands low, or we can lift the chest, lifting the arms, maybe feeling sensation into the front of the right leg. So getting into the hip flexor muscles. Exhaling, hands come to the floor or to our blocks. We'll step the left foot back, coming into child's pose. Staying here in child, we can lift into down dog, or we can move through that vinyasa that we explore. Shifting forward, exhaling down in our push-up, inhaling to lift, then exhaling back. So just one more round if we're flowing. We're staying still. And we'll meet in child's pose. On our in-breath, we'll step that right foot to the top of the mat. So coming into our lunge on the other side, right knee is over the ankle. Hands can come anywhere they feel most comfortable. So we might choose to find that lift, or maybe taking an expansion for the chest. Interlacing hands behind the back, or we could come to cactus arms. Relaxing our gaze. And then as we exhale, bringing hands to our blocks or the floor, we'll tuck the back toes under, lifting that knee, sending some energy through the heel. And then big inhale, we'll step left foot to meet the front, coming into our forward fold. Inhaling, halfway lift, engaging through that core, keeping core stability. Exhaling, rounding, letting the belly rest on the legs. As we inhale, sweeping up. On our exhale, adding in one chair pose, bringing hands together at the heart. Inhaling, sweeping up. Exhaling, hinging at the hips, keeping those knees bent, forward fold. Inhaling, halfway lift, monkey pose. Exhaling, hands come to the floor. We'll step the left foot back, lowering that knee down to the ground. Now we have the option on this side of staying on our knees, keeping that left knee on the earth. Or if we'd like, we can tuck those toes under, coming into runner's lunge. And as we notice our legs here, we're going to energetically squeeze the legs towards each other as if they were scissors. And hands can stay rooted if that helps us feel more balanced, or if you'd like to challenge your balance, maybe coming up to hands on the leg, or maybe reaching up towards the sky. If arms are up, keeping shoulders down away from the ears, so not shrugging the shoulders up, keeping that relaxed sensation in the shoulders. And then as we exhale, hands come to the earth or to our blocks, and we'll step the right foot back to meet the left foot. So right here we can make a choice. Downward facing dog, child's pose, or any vinyasa we have in our practice. So remembering vinyasa is just pair your movement with breath. You might come forward to a plank on toes or knees, shifting forward on the toes if we want to come into chaturanga. And then flipping the toes, we can come into an upward facing dog. And then shifting the hips back into downward facing dog or child's pose. On our next in-breath, we're going to step the left foot forward. So whether we're in child's pose or down dog, we'll step the left foot to the top of the mat. And we'll all start with that right knee on the earth. So if we need to help that front leg get there, we can give them a little bit of help. Staying on that low lunge, or tucking the right toes under, lifting the right knee. And making the choice that feels right for this side. Might be a little different than what we chose on the other side. Honoring what the body has to give us, letting go of expectations or judgments as we make those choices. Exhaling, we'll lower hands back down. And then if that right knee is on the earth, we'll tuck the toes under to lift the knee. And then we'll all take a big step or as many steps as we'd like to come into forward fold at the top of our mat. Inhaling to lift halfway, monkey pose. Keeping the back of the neck long and that navel drawing in towards the spine. We'll exhale, melting forward fold. Inhaling to sweep up. And then exhaling, coming into our chair pose. Inhaling to lift. And then exhaling, forward fold. Inhaling to our monkey pose. We're going to add on a couple different options. Exhaling, forward fold. And you can pick and choose, maybe keeping with what we did previously or adding on some of these options. So now we're stepping back with the right foot. We're in our runner's lunge, so that right knee can be on the floor in our low lunge. Keeping hands low, or we can lift into crescent lunge. So we're going to have an option for a twist here. So hands could come to prayer. We could twist over to the left. Or if we'd like, we can exhale, bringing that right hand down to our block or to the floor. And then extending through that rear leg, we'll inhale, lengthening the spine, lengthening through the chest, and exhaling, twisting, maybe opening the arms. So finding what feels good to you, not needing to look like anybody else in your pose. And then exhaling, coming out of our twist, facing that front leg. We'll step the left foot back to meet the right. Maybe choosing our vinyasa, or we could pedal our feet. We could be in child's pose, maybe even adding some swing for the hips. If we're in down dog, we could lift a leg, maybe coming into a three-legged dog. So again, no right or wrong here, just having a little bit of fun, choosing what feels good to you. If we are moving or flowing, we'll come back into stillness in either down dog or child's pose. On the next in-breath, we're going to step the right foot forward so we can give it a little bit of help if it needs it. And again, low lunge or high lunge, making your choice for this side. We can lift. And then option for a twist on this side. So remembering our first option is hands at prayer position, inhaling first to lengthen, and then exhaling to twist to the right. Or if we want to bring that left arm down, we can bring the left hand to the floor or to our block, twisting to the right on the exhale, looking up in either direction, looking up or looking down, and coming forward. Hands come to the floor or to our blocks. And this time we're going to step the rear foot to the top of the mat, coming into that forward fold. We'll soften here, we'll inhale halfway, and then exhale and forward fold. Inhaling to sweep up, and then exhaling, finding our way into child's pose, or actually chair pose. So we're in chair pose. We'll inhale up, and then exhaling, arms come down alongside the body. Find yourselves in mountain, so we're going to roll those shoulders back and down. Softening our gaze. We're going to take a moment to check in with the body here. Maybe closing the eyes, tuning into the breath. And just like we did when we started, when we were seated, feeling that connection between our bodies and the earth. Finding the four corners of the feet. Getting down through the base of the big toe and the baby toe. The base of the outer and inner edge of the heel. So getting ready to allow the eyes to slowly open. We're going to come to our balance for today. So you might want to have blocks nearby if you have them, or if not, you might want to come to a wall, and that's always an option. So for today, we're going to start out just like we were a moment ago in mountain with feet hip distance apart. And we're going to shift our weight into the right leg. So starting to come onto the toes of the left foot. So this might be enough balance for today. If that's the case, staying right here. Arms can be at prayer or out alongside the body. So noticing just as we've shifted the weight into the right leg, how that does change our sense of balance. We might choose to then lift the left knee. And we have our block here, so maybe we'll use our block. We could place our toes on the block. Or we can lift that knee nice and high. Maybe choosing to extend that leg and noticing how much strength it takes to hold that leg without any extra weight or without an ankle weight or anything else. It's just the leg, holding that leg. You can bend the knee again, maybe coming out to the side. You can come forward. So adding in a little bit of movement makes this more challenging as well. So only adding the movement if that feels okay. And if we bobble or fall out of our pose, we can always try it again. But having a sense of humor, just breathing into it. Maybe lifting one last time. Woo. And then as we're ready, lowering that foot down to the ground, adding some counter movement, maybe some twists or circles, maybe shaking those legs out or the arms. And then we'll try that other side. So this time we'll shift our weight into the left foot, lifting that right heel. So as we go through those options, picking and choosing what feels good to you and stopping at whatever stop along that bus route feels good to you. So maybe coming into our high march. And one thing to keep in mind when we lift the knee, if we're lifting the knee, is to pay attention to our hips. So maybe putting our hands on those hip points. And we want to be careful that we're not hiking one hip higher than the other. We want to keep those hips in alignment. And I'm messing with my balance by doing that. So we could stay here. Remember that was one of our options. We could extend the leg. And the whole while paying attention to make sure we're not losing that good alignment that we had. So if we come out of it, we can lift again. Maybe bring the knee in. We could try that abduction, taking the knee away from the body, the leg away from the body. And maybe bringing it back in. Try bringing it behind. So it can help to find a place on the floor or maybe the wall for your gaze or your drishti. So when we have our vision or gaze set at one spot, that can help us to balance. When we engage that core, that can help as well. And then very slowly, whenever you're ready, set that foot down, shake things out, add a little circles. You might notice that one side felt a little different than the other. We usually have one side that likes to balance a little more than the other. And all that's pretty natural and normal. So now we're going to come back to the front of our mats. I'm going to set one block to the side so I have it for when we're done. And if you have one, you might want to keep one nearby too. So roll those shoulders back and down. Inhaling up, and then exhaling, deeply bending at the knees as we hinge forward, coming into that forward fold. Hands are going to come next to the feet, and we're going to walk the feet back into a downward facing dog. So right here, adding in any movement that you like. Again, it could be walking your dog, maybe pivoting on the feet to get into the side body, or you can explore a three-legged dog. Or if you'd like, you can lower knees down to the floor and do some movement on hands and knees in tabletop. We'll come back into downward facing dog, or if you prefer child's pose. And on our next in-breath, we're going to shift the body forward into plank. So we can be here on toes, or we can lower the knees. If we're on toes though, really hugging the inner thighs together, engaging through the core. So we want to be very strong here, like a plank of wood. So rather than lifting through the hips, we're sinking through the belly, which I'd really rather not do to show you because that could definitely hurt the lower back. We're finding that strength. And then with strength and control, we're going to lower all the way down to the floor. Uncurling the toes. Bringing hands underneath the forehead. Taking a moment. And then we'll bend the knees, and we're just going to let the feet go side to side. So a little different variation of those windshield wipers. You might imagine that our feet are kind of like seaweed on the bottom of the ocean, and they're just swaying side to side through the water. And then bringing the feet back down to the earth, we're going to lift into a back bend called Sphinx. So first we're going to take hands to elbows, and then we'll bring forearms to the floor. So we do that to make sure that our arms are in alignment with our shoulders. We'll spread those fingers wide into starfish hands. You might even wiggle through the hips a little bit here as we lengthen the legs, toes are long, and hips are pressing down as we draw the belly away from the floor. Keeping those shoulders down away from the ears. As we just let our gaze come maybe about 8 or 10 inches forward on the floor. So again, thinking about that chin and chest alignment. Imagining that we have maybe a soft ball between the chin and the chest. So not needing to overly arch the head up towards the sky. And it might not look like we're doing a lot here, but we're creating some strength for the lower back, the entire spine as we lift the torso away from the ground. Exhale, we're going to come all the way down, maybe bringing the forehead back to the hands, or we can turn our head to one side, maybe swaying those feet side to side once again. So just 1 or 2 more breaths right here. And extending those feet back down towards the earth. We'll bring hands next to the shoulders, and we'll push up and back into child's pose. Inhaling, we'll come up. We're going to come onto our bottoms once again. So this is a place where you might choose to sit on your block or your cushion as we come into a wide-legged forward fold. So we're going to start first with our legs in a V, so whatever distance feels good to you. Again, if you find yourself rounding back, this would be a great time to sit on that block. Or if you can sit up nice and straight and your knees and toes can point towards the ceiling, then you could be on the floor. So picking and choosing whatever feels good to you. If you experience any tightness in the backs of the legs and the hamstrings, bending the knees a little bit more, maybe placing a block or a cushion under them. So we're going to start first sitting up nice and tall. So thinking about the natural curves of the spine. Still keeping a little bit of bend in the knees, even though the knees are pointing up towards the ceiling. And this might be enough of a stretch. So if this is feeling like enough work for you, staying right here, not needing to move on. But only if you want a little bit more, if the body needs a little bit more. So making that connection between, whether it's the ego pushing us or if the body wants something. So paying attention to the body instead of that ego. We'll inhale, lifting. And then maybe exhaling, coming forward with the breath, using a sinking breath. So every time we inhale, maybe lifting a little bit. And then when we exhale, we could go a little deeper into the pose. So hands could come forward. They can come to the bottoms of the feet, or maybe taking our 2 peace fingers around our big toes and then offering that heart forward. You're only coming to a place where you can still breathe comfortably. So if you find you're holding the breath or the breath is getting labored, then maybe coming out of the pose a little bit. Still keeping those shoulders relaxed. And then just 1 more breath here. And exhaling. We'll bring the soles of the feet together, coming into butterfly pose. So if you're not already, you might choose to sit on a support. I'm going to sit up on my block. And then bring soles of the feet together, holding on at the ankles. Still keeping that spine nice and long. And in this position, we're not worried about forcing the legs down. We're not trying to create any type of force or strain here. And it might even feel good to close your eyes in this position. So we're creating some openness into the hips, and we might even feel a nice stretch into inner thighs. We'll relax the throat and the jaw, maybe making some silly faces nobody can see. So you might wiggle the jaw around, noticing if it's getting tight, or noticing if the shoulders are hunching up, and relaxing them down. Finding a sense of ease in this pose. And then only if you want to, you could come forward a little bit, but picking what feels best to you in this moment, not needing to come all the way down. And take one more breath here in this pose. And then exhaling, we'll bring knees together. If we're on a support or a block, we'll set it to the side. And maybe keeping it nearby, we'll hold on to our leg, coming onto our backs once again. And some movement here. Maybe getting a massage from the earth. So now we'll bring our feet down to the mat. And we're going to turn our feet just like we were a moment ago. So now we're in a reclined version of butterfly pose. So a little different feeling from when we were just here a moment ago. And in this position, we might really feel a little more ease. We're taking all effort out of this pose. Now, if this is too much on your back with the knees out to the side, you can come back into a position with feet flat, or you can have just one knee out to the side. Then bringing knees together, bring feet back to the floor, knees come into chest. We're going to turn our bodies over to one side. So knees are stacked, shoulders are stacked one on top of the other. We might even place one hand underneath the ear. Or we can take hands out to the side, arms out alongside the body. So I'm laying to the left, so I have my right arm on top of the left. And what we're going to do is take a little different version of a twist here. We're going to do a twist from the upper body. So inhaling, we're going to lift that right arm, or your top arm, up and over, going only as far as feels good. So not needing that top arm to open completely or the hand to come to the ground. We can turn our head in either direction. So maybe looking towards that extended arm or up to the sky. And we're keeping those knees stacked. You might place a pillow or something between the knees if that feels good. Just allowing the breath to be nice and gentle here. On our next in-breath, we're going to keep that arm up and over, coming back to where we started in kind of a modification of fetal pose, baby pose. And we'll come back into center. And we're going to roll to the other side. So now the knees once again are stacked, arms are stacked. We'll inhale, lifting that top arm up and open to any degree. So not worrying if that arm makes it all the way down, not forcing it to happen if it doesn't. And if the arm is up towards the sky, that's perfect too. So we're opening the heart. Maybe letting our eyes close here if that feels good. Taking one or two more last breaths in this twist. And inhaling the top arm over to meet the bottom. Coming back to center as we make our preparations for our Shavasana. So if there's any last little bit of movement you need here, inviting that in. And then for our Shavasana, coming into a position that feels good for you. So it might be lying on your back with knees bent, maybe extending the legs into more of a traditional Shavasana with the feet wider than the hips, arms out alongside the body. Or you might choose to place a prop under your knees or under your hips. So making any adjustments, maybe even rolling onto your belly into a reverse Shavasana. Finding a place where we can allow the body and the mind to find that quiet once again. Letting go of any effort. Coming to a place of ease as we allow the body to soften and to sink into the earth. Allowing the eyes to be heavy in their sockets. Relaxing the throat and the jaw. Feeling the shoulders. Release and let go. Anyone who knows you knows that you're not perfect. As a matter of fact, no one knows anyone who is perfect. You only think people can be perfect when you're a kid. You probably thought your parents were perfect in order to believe they could rescue you from any danger. It's a painful discovery to learn that your parents are only humans. You may have felt that you needed to be perfect to be worthy of your parents' love. That's understandable, but it may be hard to admit that your parents' love was not enough to make you feel lovable just the way you are. Maybe you felt that unless you were perfect, someone would withdraw their love and abandon you. The fear lurking within everyone who tries to be perfect is a fear of not being lovable. What are you going to do about that? You are never going to be perfect, and none of the people you thought were perfect ever were. Give up being perfect. Maybe you need to love yourself, warts and all. Admitting your imperfections makes you lovable. Here I am, flaws and all, waiting for nothing, giving my love. So when you're ready, beginning to bring some movement back to the body, tracing thumbs over fingers and wiggling the toes. Bending the knees to come back into baby pose, resting on one side. Using the arms to help lift to a comfortable seat. Finding that length in the spine, coming back into a position we started, rooting the tailbone down and getting taller through the crown of the head. Bringing hands together at heart center in Anjali Mudra, prayer position. Taking a moment in gratitude towards yourself for all the ways that you show up for yourself. A moment in gratitude for your body showing up. for all the ways that it does as well. And in gratitude from me to you for sharing your practice with me today. The light within me honors the light within you. Namaste. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.